The shelter was quiet after the Saturday adoption rush. Noah, the big golden retriever, let out a sigh that fogged up the lower part of his kennel gate. He could still smell the excitement, the fear, the hope of the other dogs. And the baby talk. Always the baby talk for the others. Look at that fluffy one. So adorable. Oh, the little one. She'd fit perfectly in my purse. No one ever stopped at his run. Not for long, anyway. He wasn't the golden retriever people pictured. He was too much. Too tall, his chest too broad, and his coat wasn't a lush golden waterfall. It was dull, the color of old wheat, with patches where the fur grew in odd, wiry tufts after a long-ago sickness. One ear had a permanent notch. He looked, as one kid had said loudly, like a lion who lost a fight. From the run next door, Ruby the miniature pinscher danced on her tiny feet. They took my picture. A family. They said I was spirited. That's code for "we'll chew your shoes," rumbled Coda, the chow chow, from across the way. His lion-like mane was impeccably clean. He spent hours licking it. They admired my ridge, said Leo the Rhodesian Ridgeback calmly, lying like a sphinx. They recognized quality. Noah just put his head on his paws. He remembered a home. Faint, warm memories of a boy, a bed by a fireplace. But the boy grew up, went to college, and the family said Noah was too much dog. That was 3 shelters ago. The front door chimed. Noah's head came up, a flicker of instinctive hope in his chest. He saw the humans approach. There was Ethan, tall and slender, his kind face looking worried. Beside him was Priya, slim and graceful, her arm linked with his. Behind them, a teenage boy, Arjun, tall and fit, had his earbuds in but his eyes scanned the kennels. "Remember," Priya said softly, "we're just looking. The house feels so empty since your father passed, Ethan, but we must be practical. We need a good guard dog," Arjun said, pulling one butt out. "Something that looks tough." They walked past. Ruby yipped. Coda gave a dignified woof. Leo stood and showed his impressive musculature. They stopped right in front of Noah. Noah's tail gave a single, hesitant thump against the floor. "Oh," Priya said, her voice softening. "Hello, big fellow." Ethan peered at the information card. "Noah, 7 years. Owner surrender. Says he's gentle. He looks scruffy," Arjun said, not unkindly. "And sad." At that moment, Sadie, the old Rottweiler at the end of the row, began to bark. Not her normal bark. It was a low, urgent, warning sound. Noah's head snapped toward her. He saw it then. What he always saw when Sadie barked like that. A faint, cold shimmer in the air near the shelter's back wall. A dripping, shadowy shape that only he and Sadie seemed to notice. The other dogs ignored it. Noah gave a low whine and backed into a corner of his run, hair on his neck rising. The family saw him cower. "See, he's scared of barking," Arjun sighed. "Probably not a guard dog. He just seems nervous," Ethan said. He crouched, offering a hand through the bars. Noah, desperate for contact, crept forward and nudged the gentle fingers with his nose. "He has kind eyes," Priya murmured. But then the shelter worker, a cheerful young woman, came over. "Interested in Noah? He's a sweetheart. Been here a while. But I should mention, we have a stunning Rhodesian Ridgeback just a few runs down. Much more of a statement dog. And a beautiful chow chow. Very loyal." The family looked at each other. Noah saw the doubt creep into Ethan's eyes. The moment was slipping away. "Can we meet the Ridgeback?" Arjun asked. "Of course. Right this way." As they turned, Noah let out a soft, whimpering breath. It was a sound of pure heartbreak. It was the sound of being chosen last, again. Ethan stopped. He looked back at Noah, who had slumped to the floor, his great head between his paws, eyes closed. "Actually," Ethan said, his voice firm, "let's meet this one first." Noah's world stopped. His ear twitched. The meeting room was a blur of smells and gentle hands. Priya sat on the floor and let him sniff her. He was careful, gentle. Arjun even took his earbuds out and scratched behind his notched ear. "You're okay, big guy. He needs a home," Ethan said finally, looking at his wife and son. "We need a friend. Maybe we're not a statement family. Maybe we're a second chance family." An hour later, Noah was riding in the back of their car, a worn leash attached to a brand new collar. He was terrified, he was thrilled, he was theirs. Their house was big and old, on the edge of a quiet neighborhood near the woods. Naomi, Ethan's broad-shouldered, white American mother, was waiting on the porch. At 80, she was formidable. "He's enormous," she exclaimed. "And a bit rough-looking, isn't he?" "He's perfect, Mom," Ethan said, helping Noah out of the car. Noah stepped onto the soft grass of the front yard, and he froze. The house, with its pretty blue paint and flowering window boxes, wasn't just a house. To Noah, it was covered in a swirling, gray, silent mist that clung to the eaves and windows. It was a cold feeling, a feeling of deep, old sadness that made his bones ache. "What's he doing?" Arjun asked. Noah was staring at the attic window. There for a second he saw a face. Pale, sad, and then gone. He let out a low growl, the first they'd heard from him. "Probably just a squirrel," Priya said, but she sounded uneasy. That night, Noah slept on an old blanket in the kitchen. The family went upstairs. The house settled, and the cold feeling descended. It seeped under the kitchen door. Noah heard it first, a whisper like pages turning, then a slow, dragging sound from the upstairs hallway. He was on his feet, a silent rumble in his throat. He nudged the kitchen door. It was latched. The dragging sound came again, closer to the top of the stairs. Then a soft, mournful sigh that seemed to fill the whole house. Noah did the only thing he could. He threw his weight against the kitchen door with a loud thump. He barked, not a scared yelp, but a deep, alerting woof 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 that shattered the silence. Lights came on upstairs. Footsteps. "Noah, what is it, boy?" It was Ethan coming down. The cold feeling in the house vanished instantly, like a candle snuffed out. By the time Ethan reached the kitchen, Noah was quiet, wagging his tail tentatively, but his body was rigid. "Just nerves, huh?" Ethan said, rubbing his head. "First night in a new place. It's okay." He led Noah upstairs, letting him sleep on the floor of the master bedroom. Noah lay awake, watching the dark hallway. He knew what he'd felt. He knew what he'd heard. The family thought they had saved a sad, ugly dog. But Noah, with his notched ear and his seeing eyes, knew the truth. He hadn't just found a home. He had a job to do. And whatever was in this house with them did not want him there. Life at the Blue House settled into a rhythm. But for Noah, it was a rhythm with a cold, silent beat underneath. The family was kind. Ethan took him on long walks. Priya sneaked him bits of cheese from the kitchen counter. Arjun, to everyone's surprise, had claimed the role of chief belly rubber, often flopping on the floor next to Noah to do his homework. Even Naomi, the grandmother, had softened, calling him "your big lump" in a tone that meant affection. But the house was not at peace. The cold mist would return, always at night, always when the family was asleep. Noah had taken to sleeping in the upstairs hallway, a self-appointed sentry. He would hear the dragging, the sighs, see the occasional pale shimmer at the end of the hall. Each time, he would let out a low, steady growl, a sound that vibrated through the floorboards. The moment he did, the presence would retreat, melting back into the walls. He never barked the house awake again unless the feeling was overwhelming. He'd learned that first night they wrote it off as nerves. They couldn't see what he saw. They just saw a dog who sometimes stared intently at nothing. The one place the cold feeling never reached was the sunny backyard. It was there, a week after his arrival, that Noah met Annie. He was lying in a patch of sun, soaking in the simple, solid warmth, when a movement at the back fence caught his eye. A brown Springer Spaniel, her white and liver coat matted with burrs, stood peering through the slats. She was thin, but her eyes were bright and intelligent. "New, huh?" she said, her voice a friendly yip in his mind. Noah stood, ambling over. "My name is Noah. This is my home now." "Lucky you," Annie said, wagging her feathery tail. "Warm beds. Full bowls. I'm Annie. I live around the woods, the alleys, wherever." She sniffed the air. "You've got the good kibble." The family with the gentle hands. "They are gentle," Noah agreed. "But the house, it's not all gentle." Annie's ears perked. "The Blue House. Yeah, it's got a weight to it. A quiet song. Not a happy one." Noah felt a surge of something like relief. "You feel it too? All us strays who pass by feel it. We don't linger by this fence. Except me. I like to see." She cocked her head. "You see more, don't you? Not just feel. You see them." Noah was silent. He'd never met another dog who understood. "It's a gift," Annie said matter-of-factly. "A heavy one. My mother had it. She'd growl at empty corners in the old barn we slept in. Kept the bad shadows away from me and my siblings." She pushed her nose through the fence slats, and Noah touched his nose to hers in a gesture of shared understanding. From then on, Annie was a regular visitor. She'd appear in the mornings or at dusk. Noah would sometimes push a biscuit from his bowl through a gap in the fence for her. She'd tell him about the woods, the fox den, the creek path, the old man who sometimes left out chicken scraps. One afternoon, Ethan was in the backyard raking leaves. Annie appeared at the fence. Instead of running off, she sat and watched. "Well, hello there," Ethan said softly. "Aren't you a beauty?" He moved slowly, getting a bowl of water and placing it near the fence. Annie watched him, wary but not fleeing. Noah stood by, his tail waving slowly, as if to say he's safe. "She's a regular," Priya said, watching from the porch. "She and Noah are friends." "Looks like she could use a friend," Ethan said. "And a good meal." That evening, over dinner, Arjun had an idea. "Can't we take her in? She's so sweet. Noah likes her." Naomi shook her head. "We can't save every stray, Arjun. Noah is a handful enough for your father." Ethan looked thoughtful. "We can't bring another dog inside right now, son. But we can make sure she's okay. We'll put out a shelter in the yard, some food regularly. She can be our outdoor friend." The next day, a small, insulated dog house and a sturdy food bowl appeared just outside the fence, under a big oak tree. It was Annie's, but close to Noah. She accepted it with quiet dignity. One chilly night, the cold in the house was worse than ever. Noah stood in the hallway, a growl stuck in his throat like a stone. The shimmering form at the end of the hall wasn't drifting tonight. It was pulsing, and it was slowly moving toward Arjun's door. Noah's protective instinct overrode his caution. He barked, sharp and loud. Doors flew open. Lights blazed. The form vanished. "Noah, buddy, what is it?" Arjun asked, bleary-eyed. Ethan checked the house, found nothing. Priya looked worried. "Maybe he's sick? Or maybe he hears animals in the walls," Naomi said, practical as ever. Frustration boiled in Noah. He ran downstairs to the back door and scratched at it. "He needs to go out," Ethan sighed, pulling on a robe. Noah bolted into the backyard, straight to the fence. Annie was already there, standing by her little house, alert. "It's strong tonight," she said, her breath making puffs in the cold air. "The sad song. It's coming from the earth under the house." "How do I make them see?" Noah whined. "They don't have our eyes or our ears," Annie said. "You have to show them in their world. Find the source. The anchor. The anchor. The thing that ties the song to the house. It's always a thing." Before Noah could ask more, Ethan called him back inside. The family was gathered in the kitchen, drinking tea. "We need to be sure he's okay," Priya said, running a hand over Noah's head. "Maybe a vet visit." "Maybe," Ethan said. But he was looking at Noah, really looking. "Or maybe he's trying to tell us something." The next day, Saturday, Ethan decided to clean out the old storage cellar. It was accessed from outside, a pair of sloping wooden doors near the foundation at the back of the house. "Give me a hand, Arjun. We'll get rid of some of this old junk your grandfather kept." Noah followed them, his heart beginning to pound. As Ethan pulled open the heavy doors, a wave of cold, damp air, laced with that familiar, profound sadness, washed over Noah. It was so strong it made him sneeze. "Phew, smells like old dirt and memories," Arjun joked, but his smile faded when he saw Noah's posture. The dog was rigid, every muscle tense, a continuous, low growl emanating from his chest. He wasn't looking into the cellar. He was staring at a spot on the stone wall inside. "Whoa, Noah. Easy," Ethan said. But Noah wouldn't be eased. He took a step up, then another, into the gloom. The growl grew louder. At the back of the cellar, behind an old wooden workbench, the cold mist was thickest, swirling around a loose stone in the foundation. "What is it, boy?" Arjun's voice was now a whisper. Noah walked to the wall, his nose twitching. He pawed at the loose stone. Ethan and Arjun exchanged a look. "Probably a mouse nest," Ethan said, but he didn't sound convinced. He moved the heavy workbench aside. Together, he and Arjun wiggled the loose stone free. Behind it wasn't a mouse nest. It was a small, rusted metal box. The moment the box was exposed, the cold feeling in the cellar vanished. The air just felt old and dusty, nothing more. Noah stopped growling. He sat, whining softly, his job done. Ethan lifted the box out. It wasn't locked. With creaking hinges, he opened it. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were old letters, a faded photograph of a young woman with sad eyes, and a wedding ring on a simple chain. Tucked beside them was a brittle, yellowed newspaper clipping with a headline that read, "Local woman vanishes, 1932. Arjun read the clipping aloud, his voice hushed. Eleanor Voss, 24, was last seen at her home on Oak Lane. Foul play is suspected. Her husband, Samuel, was questioned but released. The case remains open. Oak Lane, their street. This was their house. Priya and Naomi had come out, drawn by the silence. They all stood in the cellar, looking at the sad little treasure trove. "She never left," Naomi said finally, her voice full of pity. "The poor soul." Ethan looked at Noah, who was now sitting quietly, watching them with his deep, knowing eyes. He wasn't staring at empty space anymore. He was looking right at Ethan. "He wasn't barking at nothing," Ethan said, a dawning on his face. "He was barking at her. He was telling us where to look." Noah thumped his tail once on the dirt floor. Finally, that night, for the first time, the house was truly quiet. The cold mist was gone. The air felt light, warm, settled. Noah slept deeply at the foot of Arjun's bed. In the morning, Ethan made a decision. He called the local historical society about Eleanor Voss. Then he went to the back fence. Annie was there, waiting. "You knew," Ethan said softly. He unlatched the gate and held it open. "You helped him." Annie didn't run. She walked in, her tail waving gently. She went straight to Noah, nuzzling his shoulder. Then she looked at Ethan and gave a soft, single wag. "The outdoor friend," Ethan said to his family, who had gathered, smiling, "should come in from the cold. For good." Annie stepped into the warm kitchen. She had a home. The house, at last, had peace. But as Noah watched his new friend eat from a bowl inside for the first time, a new scent caught his attention. It came from the woods, carried on the wind. It wasn't the cold sadness of Eleanor. This was different, sharper, hungrier, and it was watching the house, now bright with life and laughter, with keen interest. His job, it seemed, was not over after all. The peace in the blue house was a deep and comforting thing. Eleanor Voss's remains were given a proper burial by the Historical Society. Her story finally laid to rest. The family felt the change instantly. A lightness in the halls, a warmth that seemed to seep from the very floorboards. They looked at Noah not as a scruffy, nervous dog, but as something close to a miracle. Annie's integration was seamless. She blossomed with regular meals and vet care, her Springer Spaniel coat becoming glossy, her eyes losing their wary edge. She and Noah were inseparable, a perfect balance. Noah, the broad-chested sentinel, Annie, the agile, observant scout. She knew the woods and the rhythms of the wild in a way he never could. But Noah's unusual sensitivity hadn't left with Eleanor. It had, if anything, become more finely tuned. The new scent from the woods was a constant, faint prickle at the edge of his awareness. It wasn't a ghostly sadness. This was living, predatory, and patient. A month after Annie moved in, the first incident happened. It was trash day. Ethan had wheeled the bins to the curb the night before. In the morning, the lid of one was torn off, the garbage shredded and scattered across the lawn. "Raccoons," Naomi declared, hands on her hips. Big, bold ones. But Noah and Annie had been at the back door all night, not growling at the attic, but at the tree line. They hadn't barked because the threat never crossed the fence. It had watched. The next week, Priya's small herb garden by the side shed was dug up. Not neatly, but with violent, gouging claws. "Maybe a skunk," Arjun suggested, less sure now. Annie, sniffing the devastation, looked at Noah. "Not skunk. Not raccoon. Bigger. It smells of old blood and pine." Then came the night of the storm. Wind howled, shaking the windows. Rain lashed the house in sheets. The family was cozied in the living room, a fire in the hearth. Noah, however, was a statue at the back window, Annie quivering beside him. Through the sheeting rain, Noah saw two steady, amber points of light reflecting back from the woods. They didn't blink. They just held. "What do you see, boy?" Ethan asked, coming to stand beside him. He saw only the storm. The next morning, the evidence was impossible to ignore. In the soft mud at the tree line, clear as a photograph, was a single paw print. It was enormous, wider than Noah's head, with deep, cruel claw marks at the tips. Ethan's face went pale. He called the family outside. "That's no raccoon," he said, his voice low. "That's a bear. A very big one." A deep, primal fear settled over the household. The peaceful blue house felt under siege. The police and wildlife services were called. "A bear passing through," they said. "Secure your trash, keep pets inside, it'll move on." But it didn't move on. The amber eyes became a nightly fixture at the wood's edge. The bear was bold, testing, learning their routines. The gift Noah had, the ability to sense the unseen, was now tuned to a very real, very present danger. He could feel its hunger, its calculating patience. It was waiting for a mistake. The mistake happened on a crisp, bright afternoon. Arjun, feeling cooped up, decided to shoot baskets in the driveway. He'd left the side gate to the backyard ajar. Noah and Annie were inside, napping. Noah's eyes snapped open. A jolt of pure alarm shot through him. He didn't hear anything yet, but he felt it. A shift in the intention from the woods. The patient waiting was over. The bear had seen the open gate. He raced to the front window just in time to see a massive, shaggy brown form, moving with startling speed. Lumber out of the woods not 30 yards from where Arjun, headphones on, was chasing a loose ball. Noah erupted. This was not a growl. It was a full-chested, earth-shaking roar of warning that tore through the quiet neighborhood. Inside the house, Annie took up the chorus, her sharper bark adding to the cacophony. Arjun turned, saw the bear, and froze in terror. Ethan threw open the front door. "Arjun, run!" But Arjun was paralyzed. The bear, disturbed by the sudden noise, rose onto its hind legs, a towering, terrifying silhouette against the trees. It let out a huffing bellow. What happened next was not a conscious plan. It was pure, instinctual sacrifice. Noah didn't think of his own safety. He thought of his boy. He shot past Ethan like a golden streak through the door. "Noah! No!" Priya screamed. Noah didn't run at the bear. He placed himself squarely between the beast and Arjun. He planted his broad paws, lowered his head, and unleashed a continuous, thunderous barrage of barks, his notched ear flat, his teeth bared. He made himself look bigger, louder, more dangerous than he was. He was a shield. The bear, confused and confronted by this sudden, roaring defiance, dropped to all fours. It swung a massive paw. Noah dodged, dancing just out of range, never ceasing his vocal assault. He was drawing its attention, pulling its rage onto himself. "The horn! Use the air horn!" Naomi yelled from the porch. Ethan fumbled for the wildlife deterrent they'd been given. The bear charged Noah, a short, bluffing lunge. Noah stood his ground, a rock in a brown fur tide. Screech! The ear-splitting blast from the air horn was the final straw. The bear, now facing a deafening dog and a painful, unnatural sound, wheeled around and crashed back into the woods, disappearing into the shadows. Silence descended, broken only by the sound of Priya sobbing in relief. Arjun sank to his knees on the driveway, trembling. Noah, his job done, turned and trotted back to his family. His body was trembling with adrenaline, but his tail was held high. He went first to Arjun, licking the tears from his face, then to Ethan, leaning his heavy weight against his legs. Ethan knelt in the driveway, gathering the big, scruffy dog into his arms, burying his face in the wiry fur. "You brave, brave dog," he whispered, his own voice thick. "You ugly, beautiful, magnificent dog." That was the end of the bear. The wildlife officers tracked it and safely relocated it deep into the state forest. The Blue House's peace returned, but it was a different peace now. It was a peace earned, guarded. Weeks later, under the old oak tree, Noah and Annie lay in a contented pile. The family was having a picnic nearby, their laughter floating on the warm air. "You know," Arjun said, scratching behind Noah's notched ear. "They asked at the shelter why no one wanted him. They said he was less adoptable." He laughed. "He's the most adoptable dog that ever lived." Ethan nodded, watching as Priya fed Annie a piece of apple. "We went looking for a dog to fill an empty space. We found one who showed us spaces we didn't even know were there, in our house and in our own hearts." Naomi, sipping her lemonade, looked at the two dogs. "We thought we were saving the unwanted. Turns out, they were the ones who saved us. From loneliness, from history, from a real, live monster in the woods." She smiled. Not bad for a couple of misfits. The moral of the story wasn't shouted, but lived in that backyard, in the gentle hands on scarred fur, in the secure sleep in a silent hallway. It was that true worth is never skin deep. It lies in the courage of a loyal heart, in the sensitivity to sense unseen hurts, and in the willingness to stand as a shield for those you love. It was that family isn't about matching pieces. It's a beautiful patchwork quilt. A graceful woman from France, a kind man with Arabian roots, their son with Lebanese heritage, a formidable American grandmother, an Egyptian-turned-local stray, and a scruffy, golden guardian with the soul of a lion. It was about choosing each other, again and again. And finally, it was that the world is full of invisible songs, of sadness, of danger, of need. Some beings, the overlooked ones, are tuned to hear them. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give is to listen to the quiet bark, to heed the low growl in the dark, and to open your door to the creature nobody else wanted. For in saving them, you might just be saving yourself. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in golds and reds to match Noah's coat, Ethan looked at his family, whole and safe. He looked at Noah, whose eyes were half closed in contentment, watching over them all. "He wasn't the dog we thought we wanted," Ethan said softly. Priya took his hand, finishing the thought they all felt. "He was exactly the dog we needed." And in the quiet woods, now just a friendly boundary and not a place of fear, no amber eyes watched. There was only the chirping of crickets, the sigh of the wind through the pines, and the deep, steady rhythm of a heart finally home. Thank you for listening to this story by Afi Gray. What lesson did it teach you? If you enjoyed this folktale, like, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and join me for more stories from around the world.